We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners, Burke, Britton Financial Partners. The Finances podcast, it's a bit of a play on words, but essentially we're talking everything. This is not just financial planning, we're talking about the Geelong community and people in it, people with interesting businesses. So today's guest is Cain Brunton, Director of MMPowerment, so Mind, Muscle, Empowerment. Cain, thanks for coming on this morning, mate, and I apologise for rescheduling at least once.
Nah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I was a little bit crook last time, so yeah.
I think I rescheduled you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, you were crook that day?
I was crook that week, so I probably would have been nasally and no good. So.
Yeah.
It was all good.
So, mate, for those people that don't know much about you, you gave me a little bit of a bio in the email before the podcast, but you've got this business which we'll talk about, which is MMPowerment, Mind, Muscle, Empowerment. We're going to talk a little bit before we get there about your background. Let's start with where you were born, where you were raised, and the kinds of hobbies and interests that you had growing up. So we'll start there and we'll end with the current show that you've got running.
Yeah, I guess since a young age, probably about 14, 15, I started doing Muay Thai with my older brother.
So where were you born? Just before that, were you born in Geelong? Yes.
I was born in Geelong, yeah. Born and raised in Geelong.
Whereabouts did you go to school?
I went to Winnington Primary School and then to Newcomb Secondary. So always local in the 3219 area, as they say. And yeah.
And did you, when you were you mentioned when you were sort of 13, 14, you started to get into Muay Thai, but before that, did you have an interest in, or were you involved in sports or community?
There was sort of the BMX. We used to race BMX. I was in the Sprocket Rockets, the little fellas. I think I was only about 6 or 7.
How old are you now, Cain?
I'm 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good age. I was thinking about David Price, who was, him and his boys were, these client, am I allowed to say that? Yep. Heavily into the BMXs forever, so he always chews my ear about BMX and the like, but a little bit older than you, so.
Yeah. How old is he?
David's 60.
But he's
okay.
Yeah, his kids,
did they do it?
They did. They're probably about my age. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. We'll digress a little bit while we talk, mate. I'm sorry.
All good.
So you're into the BMXs and any other sports? You play footy, cricket, anything? Or is that not your wheelhouse?
Look, I played cricket. I was terrible. Let's just say I was a better bowler, but I didn't really know how to bowl that well. Yeah. Golden Ducks was probably my thing. And I played footy as well. I wasn't too bad at the footy, but then sort of as I got older, it was, I guess I wasn't quick enough and probably a bit too small for the...
Who'd you play for?
Thompson.
Yep.
And then I played for Newcomb and then went back to Thompson. So, yeah.
And so let's progress through to when you found the martial arts, Muay Thai. When was that? You said about 13, 14?
Yeah, probably. But before that, I suppose I was doing a little bit of karate and things like that when I was a bit younger.
Is that Kaioshin karate or one of those?
Something like that, yeah.
Something you can't remember.
Yeah.
It can't have been that influential.
I know Merv Nealis was his name that I used to do it with. Yeah, so...
Merv used to come to all the schools. He would do self-defense classes at schools. He came and did some sort of self-defense at Western Heights where I went. And all I remember, I got up to do the self-defense and he gave me a back fist to the face and a down fist to the nuts.
That's nice.
Yeah. As a 13-year-old. That stuck in my mind. But and then he was a bouncer. He'd been a bouncer and
I remember him at Buckley's around the corner.
And his hands were just like giant lumps of wood. His knuckles were just all swollen. Yeah. Anyway, another digression. Yeah. Sorry, mate.
But yeah, I know it's weird, like if you think about like memories and stuff when you have when you're younger, like you remember that, but I remember him having like a red suit. That was his gi, was like a red gi. Yeah. And then sometimes I think he had like a black one.
Yep.
So it was just like this figure up there that was kind of tall and very staunch, but very like calm and had a really good presence about him.
Yeah.
So you really looked up to him. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do recall that. I can't remember the red gi, but I remember he certainly stuck in my memory as someone that was a physical and
it was a presence.
Yeah, definitely a presence. Yeah. So karate, then how did you find yourself into?
Yeah, Muay Thai. So my brother Adrian used to do it in the shed in the backyard. I still remember the the boxing bag exactly. Had the grey tape on it and the stickers on it and stuff like that. And he'd go kick the bag, and then eventually we found this little gym. Started doing some Muay Thai there with Chris Bradford, and then sort of he got into his own gym, which was top tier Muay Thai.
Yep.
And then from there, it sort of just progressed. And actually, to be honest, I thought it was a lot of hard work, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. But it was
the Muay Thai itself. The training was hard work.
Yeah, it was hard work, and I was only probably 14 roughly. And I thought, geez, hard work, and it's a lot of effort. But my brother was like, yeah, just keep going,
How did Andrew get into Muay Thai? Where was his entry point to? Because there's obviously
Adrian, my brother.
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
Adrian.
Yeah, I don't know really. I think he just knew someone and they just got into it or something like that. I think he was always into boxing. He used to train with Mick Murray's and stuff like that. So yeah, he's always into martial arts, and yeah, that was just his thing.
Did it come natural to you? Were you good at it sort of at that age, or is it just so hard too early to tell?
Well, my brother used to say, "Oh, you got a natural talent. You should just keep going. You should keep doing it." But yeah, it's just for me, it was like, "Oh, this is hard work. I don't know if I enjoy it."
What did he see as the natural talent in you?
I guess I must thinking about it now. It must have been just I guess the motor skills of it. People when they do martial arts, it can actually be quite awkward, and you could be
unco.
Yeah, unco. That's the word. It's there's lots of coordination there that people don't realise. There's a lot to it, and I guess the motor skills part of it sort of just come natural to me. And yeah, he's like, you should just keep going, and you'll be good at it, and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah. But then I guess it wasn't until sort of I started taking a bit more serious when I was probably 16, 17. And then I had an inter-club sort of amateur fight. I ended up losing the fight. I fought a guy that was a lot bigger than me, and just a good scrap. And then when I was about 18, I had sort of my first semi-pro Muay Thai fight. And then from there, it just sort of snowballed from probably 18 to about 21. It just become a natural routine of sort of life, I guess. Yeah.
Were you working at the same time, or what were you doing then?
So left school halfway through year 11, and then started a plumbing apprenticeship. So straight into the trenches, so straight from the school desk.
Literally straight into the trenches.
Oh, it was a big shock to the system at 6 a.m. in the morning, and getting to the job sites in the dark, and yeah, it was literally it was a tough experience as a kid, a 16-year-old. But I guess that's what my brother was a trade. Both my brothers were tradies. My dad's a tradie.
What trades are they in?
So Adrian's concreting, Sean's cabinet making, and my dad he worked at Godfrey Hirst, so he's worked in a factory and things like that. So they're all handy with the tools, and that was sort of the way to go. As a bloke, it's get the trade. Don't worry about school, you'll be right, So I sort of followed that a little bit, and I thought at the time that's what I wanted to do. I guess getting in the trenches and stuff like that, it was...
Just second guess that. Mental note to self, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I kind of liked it though at the time. It was a bit of... There was a lot of discipline and direction and things like that, but it was almost I had this thing where I was like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I got to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds a little bit like maybe the Muay Thai, where you just got into the rhythm of, think, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, there was I hated it at the same time. I don't know. There was a few times there where I was struggling, but it was just this is what I'm doing. This is what I got to do.
Yeah, that's an interesting sort of thought that most of us go through, where we realise that we don't particularly enjoy something, but you've got to keep going.
Yeah.
There's actually a benefit to having that struggle or that adversity. It will benefit you in the long term. And I think you'll probably talk about this when you start to talk about the kids and the business, that showing kids that they can actually struggle through adversity and be better people and better humans as a result. Well, anyway, that's what... Ben's got a kid on the way. I've got 5 here. That's the... I hope that they're the kind of values we can instill in them. So that brings us up to sort of 18, 19. You have your first couple of professional bouts. Then where do you go from there? You're plumbing, you're fighting.
Yeah,
What's
so
next?
I think I changed employers a couple of times through the plumbing, and then there was just a period of time where I think I broke up with the first girlfriend, and the work wasn't going too well, and I remember calling up my dad and saying, mate, just over this, this has happened, and just you get to a breaking point. And then I went to Thailand for a month.
What was your dad's advice? Go to Thailand, or did he?
Nah, Dad was just sort of, I guess he was just sort of empathetic, and he didn't really say go to Thailand, but he was kind of like, yeah, get out of there, do something else. So, yeah, but I think that changed from then just going to Thailand, training, focusing on the Muay Thai. And then when I come back, I had like a few different jobs, plumbing, but they were sort of like cash jobs and things like that. But I sort of took the Muay Thai pretty seriously.
Did you go with the intent to have a training holiday? Were you just going to go and chill, or
Good question, because I actually think that I wanted to go have a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And when I went there and I went to the gym, and I seen the gym, and I seen the sort of the space and the environment and I guess the aura of the place, and I thought, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to train. And
so what was it about the place, the aura? What was it about the facility? Was it the people? Was it the training modality? What was it?
I don't know. It was just, I guess it was just the way that the place looked. It was like, there was no bullshit kind of thing.
Was it just authentic? Is that the
authentic Muay Thai in Thailand, in the homeland?
Yeah.
It was just, there was people there that wanted to train, and even if they were sort of like beginners or they just were there for fun, they were there to train too. Everyone was pretty just in line. It was very disciplined, and it was just a few good people there that I met as well. So,
was that your first trip to Thailand?
That was actually, I think that might have been like my second trip to Thailand actually, but that was probably the most significant one, because the first one I went on was a bit of a training trip / sort of, gym trip thing, but I got really sick. So it was kind of half the time I was crook and didn't really enjoy it that much.
Did you get the shits?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
50-50 chance every time you go there.
I've been to Thailand before, but whenever I go to Bali, I've
been
never been
to Thailand
crook.
once, got the shits once.
Yeah.
One from one.
I brush my teeth with the water in the shower, no problem. I don't drink the water, but
I'm a bit of a pussy.
You're a bit of a pussy. You're definitely a pussy. Well, mate, you're definitely going into Cain's gym for sure. Get your head kicked. So you mentioned, you probably won't say it until I raise it, a little bit of a humble brag, I suppose. Not you giving a humble brag, but you've actually, you progressed on with your Muay Thai to be, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Australian champion, 3-time Vic champion, and subsequent to that, you've also had 6 pro boxing fights. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep.
Something like that.
So when, we won't spend too much time on it, mate, because I see you're uncomfortable already talking about it, but the Australian Championship, when was that? Like where in the timeline was that, and who was it against? Where was it? How'd you go?
Yeah, that was with Matt Seaton in Queensland, actually. So it was in his hometown. That was after the Thailand trip. So I think when I come back from that particular Thailand trip, I won about 7 or 8 fights in a row. And then at the end of it was, actually there's another one, the cage Muay Thai one as well, which is like where you have the small gloves. And I fought a Canadian.
Sorry, mate, I did miss that one.
That's all right.
Oh, sorry.
Fought a Canadian who was really, really skillful, a lot more fights than me, a lot more experience. And I was sort of going in as the underdog, and he was sort of the promoter's like boy, essentially, and ended up knocking him out in the 4th round.
How'd you knock him out?
So I knocked him down with the right hand, broke my right hand, and then at that time, and I sort of knew, but there was so much adrenaline. Just imagine like having those small gloves on and 2 guys that know how to throw punches, and you think any time I could, wake up on the canvas. So that adrenaline was real, and it was, so I hit him with the right hand, broke my hand, and apparently broke his cheekbone and his eye socket or something.
Better be careful, Ben. You're going to faint. No, Ben's got a pretty weak stomach, so
it's not my blood.
If you're going to pass out, mate, just let me know, all right?
And again, my trainer was calling out to do the switch uppercut, which we drilled many times, and then I hit him with the uppercut and with the hand that was broken. So it blew up even more, and then he got knocked down again, and then he got up, and then I hit him with a jab and he got knocked down again. So it was kind of like, 3 knockdowns, you're out. That's enough, mate.
We expected to win that one. Did you think you would? Obviously, you were going into it confident yourself, but was the consensus that you'd win that, or were you the underdog?
I was definitely the underdog. Yeah, essentially going up against the promoter's boy and things like that, There's a title on the line. They're kind of looking after him a little bit. And yeah, they can't really say too much, though, when he's knocked down. So
what happens after that? So you take that title, then do you have to defend that? What happens? Is that an international thing? What is the structure?
Yeah, it's sort of an international thing, but I guess after that I sort of went on and did some other things. So that's when I think after that I got the Australian title after that. So yeah, there's a few various titles and a few various like sanctions, I guess. Like, yeah, so I think it was a couple of years down the track there was a fight that got offered, but I think turned it down for the money essentially because it was not really worth it for the guy that I was going to be fighting, who was an absolute demon. So.
Now, talking about the injuries that you've inflicted on other people with breaking that bloke's cheekbone, what about yourself? How have you handled injury? Have you had any major debilitating injuries? I always see those heavy leg kicks with people
that's on you,
snapping their tibia and fibula. Have you done anything like that? I
haven't done anything like that, touch wood, but yeah, I've sort of cracked a rib or the cartilage where the bone and cartilage meets. That's gone in apparently. So that was from a knee, and I've had like a sort of a cut from an elbow on the top of my head, and I got like a scar on my face from an elbow too. So, but they all seem pretty minor in the scheme of things when you're kicking people in the head. And I was thinking about this morning because we're playing basketball and stuff like that now, social basketball, and I've probably had more injuries in the last 6 months from that than I have in boxing. What'd you do in basketball? Achilles, hamstring, calf? Oh, yeah, all the above. Like my left knee for some reason just has not been able to heal. That's always feeling a bit, and then my ankle last night, and then the other ankle. It's funny, isn't it? If I had my kids do jiu-jitsu now, but if I had discouraged them doing AFL, like playing footy, because, I just got destroyed. I was not a very good footballer. Ben, you any good at football?
Far worse than you.
But, both of us, shoulders, knees. Yeah. It seems to me like martial arts is probably, if done well, is safer on the body, if done well. It's interesting because, you think about the parts where you got to hit and things like they're sort of, if you throw a leg kick and it hits the meaty part of your leg, you're not getting injured. It's just a bit of bruising, I suppose. Yeah. It's just that bad. You remember your first corky?
Good corky, yeah.
Imagine having a corky and then just having someone rip into that five, 6, 7 times. There's a few times there where I've, after a fight, I've woken up at 3 a.m. or something and just been in excruciating pain of just you can feel it. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I think you can. Again, I might be talking out of school here. I do have somewhat of a medical background, don't I, Ben? But compartment syndrome's a real thing. If you get swelling and compressed, after having a hematoma, you can be in licorice all sorts. So no major injuries. You've made it through reasonably unscathed. Are you still competing or not? I haven't fought since 2019. So that was my last fight was in China. That was a boxing fight. So,
what was the transition? How did you jump across? Or why did you move to boxing?
So I sort of got to the point where I was kind of burnt out from the whole Muay Thai fighting experience, and I'd been at the same gym for a long time. So I tend to do things where I go hammer and tongs, I hyper focus on something like I did with the Muay Thai, and then I burn out and I'm I need to rest.
I need to go to Thailand for a
bit, yeah. And then I'll end up training again. Yeah, I burnt out, and then I wanted to, Muay Thai doesn't make that much money. For what I was doing and what I was achieving, I was getting paid peanuts.
Do you mind me asking, what do you get for a fight? If you go to China to fight, the Muay Thai, but if you go to
Canada,
what do they pay?
So when I fought for the Australian title, I think I got $700. Cool. When I fought for the Cage Muay Thai title, I got $500. Yeah.
You wouldn't even cover your cost to get there.
Benny doesn't get out of bed for less than
I wouldn't even let you punch me in the face.
I guess that's where it comes in when you think about, they offer me that cage, to defend the cage title and stuff like that. And they're you're going to be fighting this guy that's had, 50, 60 fights. And this is the guy you've been looking up to your whole life. And
here's $500 to get your head kicked.
Here's $500 to basically, not be able to go to work for the next month. And you're well, I'm not going to be able to pay the rent or be able to buy food with that. So you got to be a little bit smart about it.
So the boxing is a better financial option.
So definitely. The boxing, my first fight was a 4-rounder, and I think I got paid 1,500 or something like that. But obviously I get like ticket sales and things like that too. So that bumps it up a little bit. But still in the scheme of things at the start, yeah, you're not making much money.
Yeah. So to Ben's point, the transition, how did you make the transition from Muay Thai to boxing?
Yeah, so I wanted to make money essentially. I wanted to start working. I was only working like part-time here and there and focused all on my Muay Thai career and things like that. So I started working at Quest Environments, hydro excavation. And I worked there for 3 years and I'm like, I want to buy a house. I want to save money. I want to do this. And I was working big hours. Just like, with the focus that I wanted to buy a house, be financially stable, things like that. Ended up moving to Werribee and I was going to work out of the Melbourne depot, things like that. You know, trying to, I guess, build a leadership role or like a senior role, things like that. Work my way up. And then I got like really down, really like depressed and just had no focus. And, you know, all I was doing was working and, of course, not moving my body started getting stiff and I started getting like sore shoulders and all these different injuries from working essentially, you know, hard labour work and made me really down. I thought I'd go into like being a normal human being that enjoys a beer after work. Well, that's what I thought, you know, enjoys a beer after work, relaxes, you know, eats whatever food they want. They're not cutting weight. They don't have to be a certain weight, anything like that. And that was great for about a week. But got really, really sort of down and depressed. And I'm like, I gotta get back into, you know, something. But I didn't want to get back into Muay Thai. I wanted a bit of a change. So
did you connect the dots at that point when you were thinking, listen, I'm probably eating shit, drinking, not exercising as much as I did at the time? Did you connect the dots between that and the fact that you were feeling depressed, or did you not? Did you not connect the dots there?
I guess I connected the dots to that, but I think most of it was that my purpose was sort of not there. Yeah, of course I would look at it and go, look, I'm eating shit, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm not looking after myself. But that was sort of there and it was obvious, but I was like, I don't have any purpose, you know, I'm sitting in a truck and not really doing that much, or this is not me. I want to do something different. I want to be helping or doing something else. I want to be out there achieving things, you know. And so then I got into the boxing. I found a gym around the corner, met a guy and just started boxing and went off from there. And then I moved back to Geelong and then met up with Tony Salter. I actually did some Googling and stuff like that, Geelong boxing, and found, I don't know if you know Cain McKay. He wrote a review on Tony Salter saying he was the best trainer or something. So I rang him up, and I remember I'd been there before years ago, but like once, and rang him up, got into boxing. And I think I just started like, I wasn't in there for like to get in there and to fight straight away. I was in there for my own mental health. So I was in there to just get moving, just get those endorphins going, get the body moving. It was never the intention to fight, or it was just purely for my mental health. But one thing led to another, and of course the old comes back and you go again and you want to fight again.
Yeah, you can relate to that, can't you, Ben? The want and the drive to fight.
The fire in your belly.
I think it's that competitive instinct that we have, most people have. Like, I don't play footy anymore, but you go past a game of footy and you go, but I'd like to play footy. Yeah. Like, it just is in you.
I think I feel the same thing.
Like Chloe, every time we go past, she goes, why don't you just play? Because we walk past some random game of footy and you just stare at it.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss the competitive element. And to your point of like wanting to have a purpose, structure. Yeah, I love it. That's probably why I wanted to find something, to go back to something personally where it was physical and maybe group oriented. So there was like a culture and a community around it. You mentioned Quest. There was a fairly big boxing culture, I suppose, there. Yeah. Was that part of the influence? So Kyle and Steve, were they influential on your decisions around boxing, or was it separate to that? You just happened to have an influence there with...
Yeah, I think there was a bit of influence from Kyle and things like that as well. So, but it's funny, like you think about the quests, when you send in a resume to Quest, we used to joke around that you put on crayon, you just put how many fights you had.
Yeah, and you got the job.
And you got the job.
So when you moved to Geelong, were you still working with Quest then, or had you left Quest at that point?
So moved back to Geelong, just wasn't working out in Melbourne, just wanted to move back. Yeah, it was a bit isolating, actually, to be honest. Like, sort of Werribee's not really Melbourne, but it's like outer skirts, and yeah, you're close, but you're not really...
You're not there, are you?
Yeah, you're not there at all.
Yeah.
Of course, it was close to like the depot and things like that. But yeah, moved back to Geelong, kept working for Quest, and yeah, just thought once again, like I need a change. Quest wasn't working for me. I needed a bit more of a purpose. And then this might sound a bit funny or cliche, but I remember going for like a run, and it was like in the morning sometime. I had the sweatsuit on, just trying to cut weight and things like that, get the weight down.
Well,
and
cut weight to cut weight, or cut weight for an event?
Well, yeah, for a boxing fight.
Okay.
But
I was going to say, do you knock around in the sweatsuit even if you're not preparing for an event or not?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I look like a spaceman because it's like full silver. But yeah, I remember doing that, and because Tony would say to me, we've got to get your fitness up and get your weight down and things like that before we think about a fight. So I was trying to do that. Obviously, from eating poorly and drinking poorly, I probably put on a few kilos. Nothing too major, nothing too big, but obviously fighting wise it was. Anyway, I was running, and it was early in the morning, and then I just had like a thought and like an image in my head of like me standing in front of some kids, talking to kids, and kind of like, I don't know what I was talking about, but I was talking about something, like it was mentoring of some sort. And then I come back and I was like, I've got to do like youth work or something. Like I've got to do something like along those lines.
Had there ever been a thought of that ever before?
Not really.
Had you coached kids at the gym or?
I used to watch the Lester Ellis highlight video, and in the end of his video, there's like kids running down the street with him, and he like become the world champion at like a real young age and stuff like that. And yeah, he's just like running down the street in Geelong, like, with kids behind him and things like that. And yeah, so I think maybe there was a bit of a connection there, and so off I went.
So how from that idea on that run in that silver sweatsuit did MMPowerment evolve?
Well, I worked in residential care, but before that I did a little bit of work experience, like what would you call it? It was like an alternative school for young people. So I did that, and then did my course in youth work. So I studied. So I'd be driving trucks during the week, and then on the weekends I'd be studying. And of course, like, I'm not, academically minded.
Yep.
And especially back then. And so it was pretty hard for me to sort of do it on the weekends, but I sort of got a lot of help through the system that I was doing it through, which was really good. Eventually got it completed after like 6 or 7 months, did the work experience, got into residential care, had a pretty rough trot, I would say, at the start. I won't get into that, but yeah, it definitely sort of shaped, probably an even bigger drive to do the youth work.
So without getting into the detail of that, what was it you saw in the work that you were doing that sort of planted another seed for you?
I guess it was I'm going to say probably the mental health of young people in the residential care sector, and just the way that sort of the system runs. And I guess the fact that there's some people that think they can't do anything, and, sometimes you can't help everyone.
When you say people, you mean kids that think they've got no way out?
Probably kids that got no way out, or there's just like a system, like as soon as you're into residential care, it's here you are, there you go. And it's sort of, there's a bit of a decline. There's no real programs as such for like, if you've got a kid that's angry, where are you going to send them? Oh, we're going to send them to a psychologist that's going to sit in a room with them and talk about their feelings. And the young person's probably going to tell them to get effed. There's probably like horse riding, which is great. I mean, you're riding a beast. This can be pretty empowering and things like that. But, some people are scared of that. They've got a bit of anxiety about that. They don't want to do that. I mean, what else is there? There's not that much. So you got young people just sitting around a house. They've got no purpose, like I had, and they want to get into the drugs and alcohol, and, they're sleeping in till like midday, afternoon, staying up all night, so their body clocks are shocking. And there's no there's no discipline, no purpose. If you had no purpose, you probably wouldn't really want to get up, would you? And there's staff members there feeding you and making you lunch and things like that. And obviously being a teenager, you just get up and you go and you hang out with your mates in town, or, get up to no good and things like that. So from there, I guess I had the boxing background and, the drive to create a program or create something that was, I guess, not so red taped. So basically, the department can't really say what I do or can't say, you can't do boxing because that's dangerous, But I just started this program, and actually who I work for, the residential care unit, we're actually going to do it through them. So I had a clinical practitioner, Kate Davidson, who's from Wonderkind & Co., and she's just down the road, Ariston House.
Yep.
So, me and her were sort of just brainstorming about what we could do and different structures, and I had the boxing ideas and different things like that. And then basically from there we started this program, offered it to sort of MacKillop, and then they were like, nah. So we sort of offered it to the department.
They said, nah, too dangerous.
And they're like, nah, we're not going to accept this.
Is it because it was too dangerous, perceived as too dangerous, or?
I think because obviously they think residential care people, maybe they're going to learn boxing and then they're going to use it on the staff and it's dangerous, and, then they're going to use it out in the streets and, thinking that we're going to create weapons. And
Isn't that interesting though? And I've heard this spoken about, some prominent sort of martial artists talking about that it's actually the complete opposite. When you actually teach people how to fight and how to protect themselves, they don't need to use it. They have confidence in themselves, and they're actually much less likely to go and pick a fight with someone, because what they realise is that someone out there's going to be better than me and going to knock me out. Yeah. And I think that is very much lost on people when you start to talk about boxing and martial arts, that it's actually the complete opposite. It actually gives people some insight into how, if used incorrectly or in the wrong manner, that it can be very dangerous and that you should have respect for it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you think about when you do boxing or exercise, you're regulating the system. You're bringing yourself back down a baseline. You've got that energy out that's, either suppressed or, maybe you've been angry or things have happened through the day and you've gotten that energy out and you've gotten that release out. And then you go out into the community and all you want to do is just chill. You just want to sit there and you want to eat your food in the street, or you want to, you just want to chill with your mates. You don't want to get into fights. You don't want to, you've been doing that all week, or, you've got that release out. You don't want anything to do with that. You know what I mean? You don't want to raise a hand at all. So it was interesting that they backed.
So they wouldn't back it. What happened then?
So that's when I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And this was all sort of during lockdown as well. So that's actually when I started living in Epping. So I was isolated myself again in Epping, and I was working on this program, worked with really hard sort of residential care units in Melbourne. They were really extreme, really difficult.
You weren't able to implement the program at all. You're working in residential care, but you had to park the...
essentially just the babysitter sometimes. Yeah. And I ended up getting into a good group of staff members that were a majority of blokes, and some really good women that were there as well. And it was just a good team. Really helped us through sort of lockdown and stuff like that. Yeah, but then me and Kate sort of were just working on it, and she was giving me ideas and things like that, and this is step, week 1, week 2, this is how, and giving me all these clinical steps, I guess, for the program. And then I just got to a point where I was like, this is not how I want to run it. I don't want to run it like a clinical workshop of a 10-week program. I want to run it how I want to run it. And that was essentially just using the acceptance commitment therapy as a guide for how we mentor the kids.
So what does that mean? What's the acceptance commitment therapy?
So there's 6 principles. So basically you've got your acceptance to difficult thoughts and feelings. So you're not suppressing anything. You got diffusion. So diffusion is, I guess, so if you're stuck in the past or the future, if you're hooked onto those thoughts and feelings, you want to diffuse from it. You want to, note a lot of noticing thoughts, a lot of understanding the thoughts and feelings and things like that. I use a lot of caveman analogies, which is one I love. So we've actually got a picture wall of caveman pictures.
Yep.
I know you've seen the Crudes.
Yeah, I've seen the Crudes. Yep.
Yeah. So many little life lessons about anxiety and how to keep yourself safe, and obviously, but there's the young girl that wants to go out there and explore because she's not living, a fulfilling life. Her dad's basically keeping her safe in the cave.
Yep.
Knows all the
Helicopter
tricks.
parent. Yep.
Knows all the tricks in the trade. Knows how to keep the family safe, the tribe safe. But essentially, the girl's not living a fulfilling life. So obviously that's what I was doing in the past. Essentially not venturing out. And there's a lot of young people that sort of do that as well. You know, they're not adventuring out or doing what they want to do. Yeah, so probably getting off track there. But there's that. A lot of noticing thoughts, selfless context, so separating yourself from the thoughts. And then you sort of got committed action and your values. It's a lot of goal setting and things like that. Yeah, then of course you got being present. So that's sort of engaging in what you're doing and not thinking about the past or the future. You're sort of just engaged in what you're doing in the activity.
I heard someone talking the other day about one of our strengths as humans, us, is the fact that we're time travelers, that we spend a lot of time in places other than right here.
Yeah.
We travel backwards and we're depressed about the way things could have been different, or we time travel forward and we're anxious about, so anxiety with the future, depressed about the past, and the place we spend the least amount of time is in the present. It's our quality because we can think about the future, but it's like our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness as humans. And for kids, particularly, letting them know that those thoughts they're kind of normal, but the ability for them to be able to understand that and then deal with it. We're getting close to the point where you've opened this business up, mate. I know on the timeline we've digressed a couple of times.
I'm going to leave you guys finish it because I've got to run.
All right, thanks,
No
Benny.
worries.
Cheers, mate. So how long after you finished up with the residential care did you start the business?
So residential care, I was doing that for 3 years. So sort of after all the lockdown, the big lockdowns, I guess, I come back to Geelong, started working with a particular kid, and I was like, I've got this program. So I've like sort of written it up, sort of knew what I was doing, like a rough idea of what I was doing. And I'd take him out twice a week and I'd say, what do you think would be a good idea for a program? What do you think would help benefit you? And we'd go sit down at the waterfront with a coffee and he'd be like, I think more boxing, not so much therapy. Or he'd be like, you need to make the kids feel safe, or you need to build rapport with the kids. He's like, essentially like, I've had workers before and it takes me a little bit of time to sort of build the trust with someone.
Had he ever had anyone ask him what he thought?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
And this is a kid, like the only way that I engaged with him was like through a game. And before that, he was non-verbal. So like he wasn't talking to me at all. He was crawled up into a ball in the car. I was just basically driving around, trying to find stuff to do to engage him in, and then I got out the boxing pads and probably his motor skills weren't that good. Ended up being, quite reasonable with what he was doing, doesn't even know his left from right, but eventually worked that out and could throw a combination of, a Muay Thai combination with his hands, his elbows, his knees and kicks, and even throw like a jumping kick in there for a bit of fun and things like that. So doing that, lighten him up, getting his view on what a program should be. And then from there, basically the NDIS, like a support coordinator, was like, we want your program, we want you to do it independently with this kid. And I was like, yeah, no worries. I was kind of like shit myself a little bit, like, what do I do next?
How do I start a business?
How do I start a business? And then it was kind of like, we just need a quote for the whole year of your support work with this kid. And I'm like, shit, that's okay, all right. I had no idea, then you have to get all your sort of your accounts and your Xero and
bookkeeping,
all your bookkeeping stuff. And how do I
all the nerdy financial stuff?
Yeah,
mate.
how do I do an invoice? How do I work this out? And then you sort of just.
So that started with one client.
One client, yeah.
And so now let's fast forward to where we are today. You've got a shop, you've got a gym. Talk about where the gym is, how you set it up, and how you went from one client to how many have you got now?
Oh, there's a lot. It's probably we've probably had about 150 kids sort of come through, and per month there's about 100 sort of kids that sort of come through. And probably I remember talking to a friend of a friend, going to see him off, like sort of showing him the program of a rough idea of what I had going. So nothing was perfect. Like someone told me, don't worry about perfecting the name or the logo, or worry about perfecting
business cards,
business, anything like that. Just as long as you've got a good service and there's like a ballpark of what you're doing, and what you're doing's good values and, good meaning, just run with that. And from there, I was kind of like, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have all my stuff together. And I just offered this program, it was like a shell of a program. And they were like, this is great. This is amazing. I've got 6 kids right now that will, benefit from this. And it was actually Access Your Supports, who your nephew Cody used to work with. They were like, all the support coordinators, they got all their kids to get in first. They're like, this is a great program. Yeah. And so they're just like throwing their own kids in there first. And then from there, I was subleasing at Elite Training Centre. Just had a little space there, and then just started getting some kids, and then got Jay Darley, who's a professional fighter as well. Got him starting up, got him doing some boxing sessions with the kids, and then just snowballed from there. Just got really busy, and just probably 6 months after that.
So when did you start the business formally?
March 2021.
Yep.
Yeah. So from there, launched. Had some kids that were sort of in mind from other programs, from a mate who's a counsellor. He's like, I want to send these kids to you. I'm like, yeah, sweet. They were like really good kids too. Like they were ready to go. Let's just say they were ready to go. And kids that really benefited from it, like really quickly. They're like, I've never had anything like this before. Anything that anyone else has ever told me before is, hasn't been effective. Yeah, I don't know how to say it exactly about these kids, but they needed something with a bit more of an edge. The usual therapy side of things with sitting in rooms and doing counselling wasn't going to cut it. So they needed something where they could exhaust that energy on me with the pad works or with the bag work and things like that.
So at the moment, when the kids come in, so they're doing one-on-one work with you, is it group classes? Like how does it work with the kids?
So all sessions are like one-on-one. That's the best way to do it, because then you can sort of pull them aside, talk about what's going on for them. Yeah, I like that sort of, you build rapport with them. They're able to sort of open up. We do little worksheets with them, which, of course, like the young person said at the start, more boxing, less therapy. And it's literally just like a 10-minute thing. And it could be as simple as, who are the 5 people that you can rely on in tough times? And we write down who they are, have a good conversation about it, and it just literally just opens up so many avenues for conversations. It's really good. So, yeah.
Now, there's a connection. We mentioned it. I don't know whether we're recording when we mentioned my nephew, Cody. Cody's joined you from Access Your Supports. Let's tell me a little bit about Cody's role. What's he doing with you at MM?
Well, it was tough. He goes, what's actually my role? What's my role? What's my title? Because I've got to write it down on paperwork sometimes. I said, I don't know, a bit of everything. But yeah, he's come in with his disability background, obviously working a couple hours a week, things like that, going on to full time, and now basically kind of runs the scheduling, runs the invoices and the quotes and the emails, the phone calls. As you're probably aware, Cody can talk underwater sometimes. So he's very good with his words. He can put them together. So yeah, he's just really, this is like a thing I've never gone, Cody, here's your job. It's always just been, he's just fallen into it naturally. And I think that's an important thing for business, is to have those good quality people, and they want to work for you. They want to help, they want to help the business. They want to grow the business. They've got the good values and things like that behind them to be able to implement good things.
Yeah. If people are wanting to get along to your business, how do they find you? Is it through peer advocacy like Access Your Supports? Can people come to you directly? And if so, how do they find you?
So basically you can find the website, so www.mmpowerment.com.au. We've got Instagram, MMPowerment, Facebook, things like that. But yeah, obviously kids that have sort of like funding, we do, NDIS, we do clients from the department. We've got the Muay Community, which is BC Wife and Bethany joined up together now. Yeah, we do private clients, things like that. So you can just give us a ring on the on the website.
Who's going to answer the phone? Cody answer the phone, or is it you?
It'll probably be Cody, 95% of the time.
So if you're ringing, he's probably up for a chat. So
yeah, save 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah.
Now, Cain, I know I'm mindful of time, mate. We've been going for about an hour now. Is there anything in closing you'd like to say, call to action to anyone out there listening to the podcast, whether it be kids or parents or anyone? Any thoughts before we wrap it up?
That's a good question. I guess, yeah, if there's young people out there that are struggling, to sort of try to get your kids in. And we do offer a great program for any young people, aged 10 to 25. So I guess it's about sort of building a better community for young people, mentoring young people that might need it. Obviously, there's a lot of mentors that growing up, you sort of have those memories of, obviously you're saying before with Merv Nealis and things like that, those core memories that really stick with you. So obviously that's sort of something that we're trying to offer instead of, I guess, letting kids sort of suffer or not having that help behind them. Of course, there's a lot of bullying in schools and things like that. To be able to help kids sort of assert themselves and protect themselves and, to go through life having a fulfilling life.
Just on the schools situation, do you go out to schools at all? Or do you go out and speak to students at all in the school environment, or at the moment they're just coming to you?
At the moment they're coming to us, but we've got Newcomb Secondary College who've just they've actually just inquired about getting their kids in. We were going to go to them, but they obviously want to get them off campus as much as possible, just some disengaged kids. So, they've approached us and they're coming to us, which is really cool because I really wanted to get into schools and things like that.
I think all you need to get into the schools, mate, is a red gi and you're there.
Yeah,
maybe. The next Merv Nellis.
Yeah, maybe. But, so I guess it's one of those things you keep chipping away, you do good things and sort of good things come, and I'm really happy to be able to work with schools, especially since Newcomb was my school as well. So sort of understanding that in the area and things like that. Yeah, pleasure.
Awesome. Well, mate, it's been great having you on the podcast. I know I didn't really talk about it. We could have gone off in lots and lots of different directions with the family connections and Jack and some stories there, I'm sure, but we might save that for another podcast. As a business owner in Geelong, it's awesome to see people like yourself operating in the community. I mean, a lot of the work that we've done separate from our financial planning business is to try and boost the signal of organisations, whether they're businesses, whether they're charities, that are doing great things in the Geelong area. So you're doing great work, mate. I get lots of feedback from Cody, my nephew, about what's going on in your business. Thanks for spending an hour talking shit with us today, and good luck with the future. And we look forward to maybe a round 2 on the podcast.
Yeah, perfect, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me in.
Thanks, Cain. Cheers, mate. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britton FP, or Google Burke Britton Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to, don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility. Do your homework. Ask questions and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PB Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britton Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.